Born to Build podcast.
Welcome to Born to Build, conversations with the builders, founders, and pioneers driving change from the ground up. My name is Sam, and today I'm joined by Chelsey Wilson-Roos, founder and creative force behind Feet, a playful, designer-led brand born in Cape Town. From colorful socks to memory games, Chelsey brings stories to life through joyful, locally made products. Chelsey, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for inviting me onto your podcast. It's good to be here.
Tell us about the moment in, I think it was October 2012, when a sock gifting habit became Feet, a company. What clicked? What happened?
Yeah, so originally I was 21 years old. I just finished my diploma in fashion design, which was a 3-year course. I went on some travels around Europe with a friend, and I bought a fun pair of socks in Europe for another friend who I had a bit of a sock gifting habit with. We used to buy each other socks as presents or wear matching socks to our dance classes as kids. And it was kind of a bit of a tradition for us. So I bought her a pair of socks overseas. And when I gifted them to her, we were just having a chat and saying, oh, it'd be so cool if we designed socks together and had them made locally. Yeah. So we started the business as students. She was still studying, and I was looking to start my own business. I had a dad who was an entrepreneur himself, so he was always encouraging me to start my own thing. And so it started as a project, a fun idea between friends, and it grew from there. And the rest is history.
Amazing. And why socks in the first place? What inspired you guys to gift each other socks?
I don't know. I think there's just something fun about socks that you don't have, your whole outfit doesn't have to be crazy. You can just wear fun socks, and they can be a way for you to express yourself without feeling like you're being too out there. I think especially our kind of habits was initially established during our teen years, where you want to express yourself a little bit, but maybe don't want to stand out too much because you have a bit of, that typical teenage insecurity. So it's nice to have a bit of expression. But I think it just kind of came out of that playful, sort of those childish years, and then kind of just carried on. And I've always loved the idea that our socks can be worn by somebody who's maybe a little bit more conservative. They can wear them and hide them if they like, but they can also be worn by somebody who wants to show off and wants to be more expressive and wants them to be seen. There's something accessible for everybody, which is what I love about them.
Fun. And what made you decide to turn that into a business in the first place as well? Like, did you have some other ideas of things you might want to do, or was it always going to be socks?
So with studying fashion, I was always looking for something in that sort of vein. But I got a lot of great advice from my dad, who'd been in production himself. He did printing with packaging and stuff like that. So he had a lot of contacts as well in the area. And he had said, oh, well, I can put you in contact with some sock suppliers locally. I think what really drew me to it was the fact that I could buy a finished product. I didn't have to buy a raw material, make something from scratch, which is very much what, fashion, starting a fashion brand would have meant. A lot more legwork in terms of storing a lot of raw material, treating the material, creating patterns, sewing from, finding people to sew for me, all of that, which wasn't really the part that I loved the most about my course. So what I loved the most was the conceptualizing of the design. And I think being able to cut out that in-between process of being too heavily involved in production and being able to outsource that was very exciting for me. And it also was such a nice way of starting a business as someone who had no experience at all in the business space, because I kind of got to cut out a lot of the the other added extras that can add a lot more complexity to starting a business, like I mentioned, raw materials and everything. I got to buy a finished product, and it made everything a lot more streamlined. Even bookkeeping, you buy a finished product, you sell that product. You don't have to deal with all the other in between stuff. So I think that was why there was a lot less in terms of barrier to entry that made it a lot more accessible as a young person starting a business.
Yeah, brilliant. So yeah, you really took your passion for design as well, and you said on your website, which is really amazing. I love your website; it's fun. But so I've been exploring that a little bit, and it says it's a designer-led brand for dreamers and intrepid explorers. So where did that sense of adventure stem from?
So, I mean, obviously living in Cape Town and the deep south here in Fishhoek, Noordhoek, that sort of region, there's so many opportunities to explore, and beautiful mountains, beautiful oceans. And so there's so much to be inspired by. I obviously grew up spending a lot of time on the mountains or on the beach. And I really always wanted to express that in the designs that are on our socks. And it actually started with kind of seeing the sock more like an art canvas, just a moving one. And basically I did quite a few designs initially that had like a scene on them, like a campfire scene, or an ocean scene. You'll see now in our range, we have like the Muizenberg beach huts on a beach. You can kind of see the foreground. You can see the beach and the coastline with the beach huts on it, and then the sky. And I liked that idea that it doesn't have to just be a sock with a pattern on it. It can have a bit of like sort of depth.
Yeah.
And I was able to express those scenes that I love so much from this region that I love to explore onto a kind of moving knitted canvas, which was quite an exciting thing for me. And I think also just obviously most of our customer base is either people who live here or people who've come here as tourists to just enjoy this beautiful place. Yeah. And to be able to buy something that is a great reminder of that place, whether it's for you to keep or to give away as a gift, was also part of our ethos. So, yeah.
Yeah. So if you're listening, and go check out their website, it's really interesting to see the design inspirations, lots of flora, fauna, and different landscapes. You've got dung beetles on there, whales. So really, really cool. Very playful. So playfulness and delight seem to really be core parts of your brand. How do you keep that sense of wonder alive in your design process?
It's a good question. I mean, I've always been so drawn to art and illustration, and I think because especially in the sphere of socks, there are a lot of brands that popped up that weren't necessarily led by a designer. It was like, oh, this is a cool, accessible business idea. And just, find someone to design socks for us. That kind of outsourcing of the design process as well, that became quite common. And that was obviously never why I started the business. I wanted to be so heavily involved in the design process. That's the part I really love. And so it's always been my goal to try be just be as far away from like quote unquote generic as I can. And so I really spend a lot of time, just because I'm passionate about it, but looking at design and art and being inspired by incredible art and design from all over. And so I try infuse that love and passion for design into the work, instead of going, oh, this is just a sock, let's just put lions on a sock or elephants on a sock. It's like, how can we, I say we now because my husband helps a lot with this now, but how can we create patterns that are also inspiring? It's not just like, oh, people love, want to buy socks with lions on. It's, what do we love about lions? What are the, like, picking up on beautiful colors? What kind of scenery do they like to be in? Those kinds of things, to be inspired by the actual subject matter, as opposed to, oh, oh, as long as the subject matter's on there, that's enough. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm explaining myself effectively, but
No, makes a lot of sense. Yeah, no, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that kind of the heart and passion going into your design as well. You can clearly hear that as well. So just in terms of production, so all of you heavily emphasize on your website as well that all of your products, which are the cotton rich socks, some of your other products as well that you've now brought in as well, they're all designed and obviously designed by you guys, but also produced locally. So what inspired that commitment to local production?
I've always been very passionate about local production. We've got so much here, but also a lot of that industry has dwindled over the last sort of decade too, and that has always been quite sad for me because, you know, we say we're passionate about job creation and all of that in South Africa, but if we don't support local design, we don't actually, some people don't realize because they're maybe not really involved in that sort of sphere. They don't maybe think, oh, okay, but where are my socks made? You know, we so easily just go to any old large chain store just to buy our socks because we think it's an insignificant thing. But actually, there are, you know, whole industries that have started to die out in South Africa. Production has moved to the east, and that has always really been on my heart, is to try keep production local within the company as much as possible. I mean, it obviously has its challenges, but I think you have your challenges with production no matter where you produce. There's always going to be some kind of headache. So whether it's customs duties or, you know, some other issue, you're going to have difficulty anyway. So why not try keep it as local as you can and be able to also, you know, when we go pick up stock, we know everybody that's there. We've made friends. We can ask the receptionist about her kids, or, you know, it's just so valuable to me to have those relationships, and to be able to see how the environment people are working in. That's always been on my heart. So yeah, I would feel very conflicted if it were otherwise. Yeah.
And you mentioned some of those challenges of local production. What are some of those? Like, what are some interesting issues that you encounter?
So I think one of the biggest challenges is actually because, like I mentioned, the industry has dwindled quite significantly. It's hard because we kind of have to have most of our eggs in one basket, which is always a bit scary, because if anything had to happen and we produce all our socks in one place, you know, heaven forbid, like a fire or a flood or something, like, what would we do in terms of getting our product? So that's obviously a challenge. But then the way that affects us more is, you know, when it comes to busy season where we have to really stock up for the Christmas rush and we literally have all our eggs in one basket for sock production, then, you know, we can't spread that load over one or two factories and at least get, you know, some stock here and there coming in at different paces so that we can, you know, keep our sales up. So that's one of the challenges. Another challenge is, even though production is here, the cotton and like the yarns are sourced from overseas, just because, and that's another industry that's basically non-existent anymore. So when there are issues with dyeing of yarn, more recently there was I can't remember if it was to do with power outages or floods or something, from where our yarn comes from, which is, I mean, it comes into South Africa from elsewhere, but it's kept up in KZN, and we just couldn't get some of the yarn colors for some of our stock. So we had to, like, last minute change up some colorways, and just, you know, you've got to make that call. Like, is the color more important than getting the stock now? Or, you know, you've got to kind of weigh up what's what's worth giving up and what's more important. It does force us to be more creative sometimes, which is sometimes good for us to be kept on our toes. But yeah, those are just some challenges. I mean, we do have really great relationships with our suppliers, and we feel very grateful for the ones that we have. But like I said, there's difficulties anywhere, no matter where you go. And the most important thing is to really cultivate a good relationship with your supplier, and to actually just have a very transparent relationship. Where, when we have issues, we had an issue fairly recently where people were complaining our socks were too tight. And we had the complaint, I think, 2 or 3 times, and we're like, okay, something's up. And so we had to go have a face-to-face meeting and say, like, what's actually happening. And we got to the bottom of it, and we could discuss the best way forward. But that, like I said, we wouldn't be able to have that meeting if our socks were made in China. So
Yeah.
I think the benefits outweigh, they definitely outweigh the downsides. So yeah, I like to look at the positive side of it rather.
Yeah. So you've got your shop in Muizenberg, but you also supply various retail outlets across the country, I believe. What have you learned over the years in terms of just managing your stock levels and, supplying all of those retail outlets with the right levels of stock, etc.? How does that? How do you manage that?
Oh, it's an ongoing learning curve. I think when I was 5 years younger and maybe had a bit more ego around my design aesthetic and standing out, I was very attached to limited edition runs, being able to design new stuff all the time. And the wall I kept hitting was my retailers that I stocked would keep saying, like, okay, can I get more of the penguin socks or whatever? And I'd say, oh no, that one's run out, we're doing a new design. And they just kept getting frustrated with me, but why are you discontinuing that design? It's so popular. And I was so attached to my being able to be creative all the time that I couldn't, you have to keep the business savvy and the attachment to that delight and design. You have to have them hand in hand. And the funny thing is, I feel like I'm able to be way more creative now since I lent into, let's just keep redoing the popular designs, because the business has taken off as a result of keeping those core designs in stock that people want. And now it's allowing me to design new products constantly because the business is growing. So
wow,
it's amazing how that lesson, I kind of got what I wanted without, like, in a way I didn't expect.
Sure.
And so we're trying what we try to do now is to go, like, these are our core designs that do really well, like a springbok sock, an elephant sock, those kind of very typical South African wildlife socks do really well. We might change up the colorway slightly from year to year just to keep it fresh, but the design itself will stay relatively the same. And then those core ranges allow us to have new designs here and there and test it out. Okay, is this going to become part of our core range, or is it going to just like, oh, it was a nice addition, but it didn't do well enough to continue? And so having our retailers be across the country, we can really see, okay, these designs do well in this area. We need to keep our stock going in this design. Or, hey, look, it's doing okay in, like, the Northern Cape, but not great down here. And where is our biggest client base? So, but the plus side is, because we are making them locally and we have a great relationship with our manufacturer, we can do fairly small minimum runs, and that allows us to test something with quite a low risk to us. And then, we generally, as far as possible, keep to that minimum run unless it's part of that core range. And then we'll just keep producing it and keep an eye on when we need new stock, so that we hopefully don't have to ever say out of stock, and it just keeps going.
How did you find all of these retailers in the first place? Do you just go browse the internet and cold call people, or how did you actually get connected with? How did you get your products into these shops?
So it's always very interesting to me how people come across our brand. I think I went through a phase of obviously trying my best to reach out to these stores myself. And I find that often stores, they like to feel like they've discovered you. I think it's exciting for them to be like, oh, I discovered this brand. Let me contact them and stock them. But often when we contact the brand, they're like, oh, we'll think about it. And I'm like, okay, we've literally had this happen a number of times where we've contacted someone and they've been like, oh, not now, or just ignored us altogether. And then like 6 months later, they email us through our web inquiry form and they're like, hey, I just found you online. We're interested in stocking you. And we just lovingly carry on with the conversation instead of telling them, yeah, we did try email you before. But I think there's, obviously also people are busy and sometimes they don't have time to go like, oh, is this really a brand I want to stock? They need to be in the mindset for that. But I think it's generally mostly been me focusing a lot on social media. I'd say that's been the best platform to gain stockists, because whether the stockists themselves have a social media account or whoever's a buyer or runs the store there has their own personal account and they come across us, then that's been really beneficial. There are obviously a few stores that we contacted who did say, yeah, let's try it out, and it really worked, and they've kept us in their space. But yeah, it's kind of a combination. We also have been focusing this past year on doing trade shows. So we do a trade show in Johannesburg called SACTA, and that's just purely for buyers. So buyers come to the show. We don't sell off the stand. We just have our samples there, and they can view our range and then place orders from what they see. And so that's something we're focusing on a bit more now. But yeah, just generally it's people coming across us. And then I think also as that grows and grows, the more we're in a shop, then often when another person is opening a store, they'll go visit other shops themselves to see what's out there. And then they'll come across our brand and then contact us directly because they've seen us in another space. Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned your husband joining the team, Johan. Yes. So you ran Feed solo for quite a few years, and then he joined you in 2020.
Yes.
So what changed when you became a husband and wife team?
So when he joined the team, we actually weren't married yet, but we had been friends for 9 years. So,
okay.
So yeah, we got married in Jan 2021, and he joined in August 2020. And what actually, it all kind of came out of the whole COVID lockdown situation, because Johan used to be a hairdresser, and he couldn't work for months just because of the rules with the lockdown and obviously hygiene and everything. And so he ended up helping me quite a lot in the business. I moved out of my then shop space in Muizenberg to move everything back home just because I wanted to focus online and kind of reduce the expense of rental. And so because he had nothing else to do, he was helping me a lot with just keeping the business afloat during COVID. And he's incredibly creative. He's also got a love for illustration and art. So I was able to sort of hand over a little bit of the design work so that I can focus a bit on, some of the other more business heavy, administrative side of things. And yeah, it's been really interesting. I think what's the most valuable thing for me is having someone in the business who is blatantly honest with me. I love being able to have that back and forth. I'm a verbal processor. So like if I have an idea, I like to be able to sit with someone and go, what do you think of this? do you think it's a good idea? What are the pros and cons? And I found before, if someone, people who worked for me, they feel that sort of boss employee relationship too much to give me an honest opinion. Whereas because Johan and I are obviously so close, he's able to give me like honest feedback, and we can have a robust discussion about whether something's a good idea or not. And that I really value, just because of the way I process my thoughts. And yeah, it feels like I'm not alone in my business, because I still make the final call. Johan will always say, like, when I invited him to join me in the business, he was like, I told Chelsey from the beginning. He always says, I tell Chelsey, it's your business, you make the final decision. But I love that we can still have that discussion where he kind of challenges my ideas a little bit, so that I know, like, okay, I haven't just been like, oh, well, I think it's a good idea, let's go for it, So yeah, that's been the most valuable for me.
That's really cool. Interesting dynamic, but sounds like you really worked that out quite well.
Yes.
Yeah, a fun little fact is actually, I got to know you through your dad,
Yes,
and your business. And interestingly, when we started chatting, we found out that Johan actually was a good friend of my wife, and actually ended up doing her hair at our wedding 17 odd years ago. So, amazing little small world moment. So you mentioned that you handed over some of the design responsibilities, but you also mentioned earlier on that was the thing that you enjoyed the most. How is that for you now, then, having to hand some of that over, but it's actually some of that you enjoy? Have you found that you also enjoy some of the other stuff more now as well?
Yeah, I think so. Johan does a lot more sort of illustrative work within the business, and I still have to do a bit more of the technical stuff. So just because of my studies, I learned some more technical computer design work that Johan doesn't know. So often, if we're doing product development, so like you mentioned earlier, we've also incorporated other products into the business. That when there's those initial stages of product development, there's often a lot more technical work involved, like packaging, that requires a lot more focused, detail-oriented work to get right. Especially with paper products like we've been designing lately, like the memory games and stuff, they require a lot more technical work. So I still get to do a lot of design in that space. And actually that's fun for me, because I like working on new things, like I mentioned, new things all the time. And while I still love designing socks from time to time, what I really love is thinking big picture about where the business is going and what new products are like in line with our vision. And so I still get to do a lot of that work, which is very exciting. And whereas Johan is mostly working on sock designs, and then he does do a bit of illustration work for our paper products when I just don't have time to get to it. So I still really feel like I get to have that creative outlet, but being able to hand over some of the sock designing work to him has meant that I can feel less, stretched in terms of all the other aspects of the business. I have more time to, keep on top of the financials of the business, and the, keeping my relationship with the suppliers all good, and all of that type of thing. So yeah, I'm still getting that creative outlet, but also feel a lot more free to kind of have my fingers in all the pies. Yeah.
Nice. You mentioned products being in line with your vision. Tell us a little bit more about your vision. What check boxes does a product need to check to meet your vision?
Yeah, so I think our main sort of word that we cling to with the vision of the business is curiosity. And so that obviously links a lot to what we express on our products. So like our sock designs being beautiful flora and fauna that we just either know or discover within the country. But with our latest products, like our memory games and our flashcards, we express that curiosity as well in, so our memory games will have like different varieties of birds or other local like safari wildlife or insects. And so it's all about learning more about nature in fun ways. And also, since having kids ourselves, we really love creating products that we can use with our kids. So like we do flashcards, A to Z, Explorer flashcards, which are like learning cards to teach the alphabet, but it's specifically with South African wildlife. So yeah, that's definitely part of our vision, is just kind of always keeping that curiosity, always about learning, expressing some like form of delight in something that you've seen or were curious about on the products. And so obviously that can be expressed just purely through illustrating something beautiful and putting it on a sock or a greeting card or whatever. But we really love the idea of learning something in the process too. And so that kind of filters through, we filter every idea through that concept, I should say. So that's really our core vision. I mean, we do have other products now, like our flasks, where we feel like that curiosity not only is expressed in the illustration on the flask, but it's also like, it's a flask that you can take on an adventure. It keeps your drinks hot or cold for long periods of time. You can take it on a hike and your tea will still be hot when you get to the top. It's part of that is about either being on an adventure and enjoying that thing, or having something you've seen expressed in a beautiful way on the product.
Very cool. Let's talk about your customers a little bit. Is there any particular customer story or feedback that you've received from customers that just reminds you why you started in the first place?
I can think of a more recent one. I think it was middle of last year or end of last year. We received a really beautiful email from a customer who'd said she had a friend whose mom had passed away, and so she and her mom really wanted to give the family like gifts just to bring some lightness and like beauty to a very difficult time. And so they'd put together a little parcel of fun socks and memory games and stuff for the family to do together. Yeah, so that was just really exciting. Sorry, it makes me emotional.
Amazing.
I'm quite an emotional person. And that was just really a reminder of why we do what we do.
So special.
Yeah, so that was really cool for us to receive that email.
Oh, amazing. That's amazing to hear, yeah. To get that type of feedback from your customers, the impact you're making, wonderful.
Yeah.
Yeah, so FEAT stands for feature. So that's F-E-A-T is the spelling, right? And is that correct? It does stand for feature, first of all. But I guess it stands for products that stand out or spark a conversation. What does that mean to you as a maker or as a designer?
Yeah, it's funny because a lot of people just in passing, if they see us at a gift fair or whatever, they'll think a feat is short for like a feat, a triumph, an accomplishment. And I like that association too, but really what it was birthed out of is, like I mentioned at the beginning of our conversation, about us, our products. They don't have to just be for those people who are loud and out there and want to stand out with their socks. They can also be for the more conservative people. And it's okay if just your socks are fun and the rest of you is, a little bit more. I really like it when businessmen wear our socks and, maybe their whole outfit is a little bit more dull and boring, but at least they have fun socks that kind of, they flash when they, cross their legs at the boardroom table. I think.
Right. Business at the top, party at the bottom type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's really what it came out of. And actually, the friend I mentioned, she's no longer in the business. Obviously, she decided to study further and travel a lot and all of that. But my friend who I had the sock gifting habit with, who I started the business with, she was, when we first had the idea for the business, we were chatting to one of her family members, and he said like, oh, like a feature sock. And so just that comment, we were like, we've never heard that before, but that's really cool. So we kind of we hung on to that idea, and then kind of it just has really shaped the vision for the business as well. And every now and then I say to Johan, like, oh, do you think we should do some more like understated patterns or something for the more conservative people? And we're like, no, like filter it through. What is the concept of the business? What is the vision? That just doesn't make sense for what we do. So it's kind of been this guiding light for us to keep us on course. And also because we're designers, we're like, why would we want to design a boring, striped sock if we can design something fun? And rather, also, what I really like about it is sometimes we'll come across a customer, either they come into our shop in Muizenberg or we meet them at a gift fair or something, and they'll say like, oh, I'm not sure if so-and-so will like this design, but you know what? He can just try it. It's usually women speaking about men, but I think it's nice to have someone challenge you a little bit. And socks are a little bit less scary way of kind of trying something a bit more daring, because if you really have to, you can just wear your jeans over it and nobody has to see them,
Yeah.
So I think it's like a low effort, low anxiety inducing form of trying something a bit more out there. So yeah,
no, I can definitely testify to that. I'm probably more conservative in terms of my dress style, but
yes.
my kids gifted me pizza themed socks for Father's Day last year,
Cool.
which were fun, and I've actually worn them. So I am clearly one of those people.
Yes.
Also so cool how, like, I think you mentioned earlier again, how your vision, drives your decision-making process as well. Like it's something that, keeps on coming up and is really a common thread. It's so important to kind of understand your vision and know what you're trying to achieve and why you doing what you do.
Yes.
So if you could go back to your first year of running Feet, what would you do differently?
I think it's difficult because I want to say that I would be even less safe in terms of design than I was at the beginning. But it was really a process because I had to learn a lot about what was possible in terms of sock production. So there's a certain level of detail you can't get. You have to really know how to like simplify the design to a point where you still get the impact of what you want to express, but it always has a slightly pixelated quality just because of the knit structure. So there was this process of learning that I kind of had to go through before I could really get more daring with the design, if that makes sense. I think I would just trust my gut a bit more with where I wanted to go with the business and how it could grow and how fun it could be. I think when we launched the business, we did the design in Durban, which they used to have like a big exhibitor fair, which they don't really do anymore. But we emerged as we did the emerging creative section there, where we got a free stand, and we had, I think it was 8 sock designs there, and that was like our first range, and it was really exciting because we borrowed a bit of money from parents to sort of start this business, and we were straight after the design and art, but we were able to pay all of that back and have enough money to produce more stock. So it was very exciting, and it was clear that we had a really good idea that people loved. But I think because of immaturity, I was only 21, and sort of finding my feet, I was still quite safe, and I think I could have been a lot more out there with the design, knowing that, okay, people really love this, let's go for it.
And that type of stuff you only learn by putting yourself out there, learning, getting the feedback. Yeah Great. Well, let's slowly bring this in for a landing. So lastly, you've already expanded quite a bit, different products, different categories. What's on the horizon for you guys? Is there anything that you're getting excited about?
Yeah, so our paper goods with our memory games and things have really opened a whole other avenue for us. And it was really exciting because it really just started because I love birds and I wanted to do a South African bird themed memory game. And it just really opened up this whole other avenue where stockists who we originally reached out to who were like, oh, we already have another sock brand in our store, or oh, I don't think socks would do well for us. We were able to stock them with this other product. So it opened up a whole nother avenue of retail outlets for us too, which was really exciting. And we've really been leaning into that part of the business. It also allows for way more like illustration work from us, which is really fun for us as designers, where it's also exciting just to do the research, like looking into different animals and, where they come from and just the beautiful colors of the birds and the flora that we get to see. So yeah, we would love to expand our memory game range even further. We currently have 5 varieties, but we'd like that to be even more vast. So yeah, we're really expanding into that. A very exciting development is that we're currently working on a deck of playing cards that have South African wildlife on them.
Cool.
So yeah, we're really enjoying like games that the family can play together, young and old, and also games that you can take on an adventure. Like we've heard so many people say, oh, we've taken our memory game with us on every camping trip and every like family excursion, and we play it wherever we are, and that's just so exciting for us. So
Lovely.
we're definitely wanting to lean into that.
Nice. To end us off, I always try and do a bit of a rapid fire. So you get to choose one of the two: binge Netflix or hike a mountain.
Oh, I really want to say hike a mountain, but I am quite a binge Netflix watcher. So although I'm trying to be better at rather just being outdoors. But look, it's winter. I can say it's a beautiful day today, but I'll say binge Netflix.
Fair enough. Skydive or scuba dive?
Definitely scuba dive. I'm not great with heights.
Sleep in a treehouse or a castle?
Oh, tree house.
Time travel or stop time?
Stop time.
Last one, be in a sitcom or an action movie?
Sitcom, definitely.
Definitely, in terms of your fun design brand as well, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
Lastly, how do people find you online? Probably.
Yes. Yeah, we have our website, which also acts as an online store, so you can purchase directly from us on feetsockco.com. And if you want to just get in touch, you can email us through our web inquiry form or send us a direct message on Instagram. Our Instagram handle is feet_South Africa. And yeah, we're
Great.
always going to chat and hear from new and old customers. So
Great. Yeah. So feetsockco.com. So, and that's feet with FEAT. And I'll put a link in the show description as well. Great. Well, thank you so much, Chelsey. It's been so much fun chatting with you. I love what you guys do and what you're up to, and wish you all the best with feet.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's been fun.
If you've enjoyed listening to Born to Build, please subscribe to the podcast and click the notification bell to get notified when the next episode is out.